I designed Jean to be the most effective paladin possible in 5e. They say at level 20 you become a god, but I'm gonna do it by 17.
Teach me. Hey party people, I'm Tori Chancellor, one of the co-writers and EPs of the party, and I am here today with the one, the only, Grayson Niles. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Did you just appear in this room?
I did.
Crazy. You have teleportation powers?
I think so. I was just looking at those dice and I was thinking how fun it would be to have a conversation with you. And here we are.
Here we are. I know. First of all, before we get started, I just want you to stand up and demonstrate what you're wearing to our camera.
Oh, great.
And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because I would argue that Grayson is one of the best dressed members of our cast. Unfortunately, he was playing a character who would probably be considered the worst dressed character out of our
It's a little vanilla.
cast. And
It's some fun graphics, but
fun graphics, he was wearing khaki pants with beer opener flip-flops. So
yeah, that's egregious.
yeah. And so I think it's a great contrast.
Yeah.
Let's talk, before we even get into the background, do you have any statements to make on the beer opener flip-flops?
I've seen it in existence.
Yeah.
I've seen it in stores, and I've always thought to myself, who would ever use that? Because the bottom, I can't think of a place I would less want where my mouth goes around the rim of a beer than the bottom of someone's foot.
Would you like to make an apology statement, or would you?
No, because Jean's into it.
You're so right. And that's
So
all
I
that
can't,
matters.
as the actor, I can't say one way or another, but Jean certainly thought it was efficient.
War crimes. Anyway, you, Grayson Niles, are from all over the place. I would love to hear a little bit about where you've been all the way leading up to the party.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm born in Ottawa, Canada.
No way.
I was born.
You're Canadian.
Canadian, yes. So I'm from Ottawa, Canada, and then when I was 11, I think, I moved to Houston, Texas, with my parents, and then my siblings were old enough where they stayed back home, and so I kind of went from having a bunch of siblings to having zero when I moved to the States, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
So then my parents have since moved back, and I've came to California, and now here I am.
What's your history in acting?
I went to school for sound design, and sound editing.
Very cool.
So that was my full intention of doing that.
Wow.
And when I moved to Los Angeles, I was like, that's what I want to do. I did sound mixing and like boom op and editing and stuff in college. And then I, as we all do, went through a breakup when I moved to LA. I was feeling really down and really low. And I literally just wanted to do something that I'd never done before, which was, I'd acted like, I don't even call it acting, but I was in like a small thing in college that a friend of mine made, and I'd always thought it'd be fun, but I never really did it. Like I never did theater or any performance stuff. I'd always had terrible stage fright when I was younger. Yeah. And then I started doing it and it freaked me out, but it was super fun. And it was like the first thing, doing acting and then eventually doing improv through acting and stuff is like the first time I was ever really bad at something and kept wanting to do it.
Beginner improv.
Yeah.
Famously, the thing that no one is good at.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's crazy because like when I was a kid and stuff, I used to be a terrible sore loser. I would give up on lots of things. But then I found something that I sucked at hard that I wanted to keep doing.
And that kind of brings me to my next question, which was when you sent in a self-tape for Jean, I was gobsmacked because I knew exactly who you were because I am chronically online and I had seen your TikToks.
I'm gonna need the whole story from you, all right? Do not spare me any details. Go on.
So how would you describe the kind of comedy you do?
Gosh. I really like to do, I don't know, maybe you can help me answer this.
Okay.
If you've seen them. I like to do stuff that's like simple ideas and then just sort of tweaked to
Hyper-specific impressions.
Yeah, like very specific situations. I think I like giving voices to like inanimate objects, I think is funny. Or thinking how like the personality of like a broken lamp in a thrift store is or something like that. Something that's very, I don't know, just how if they could speak, how would it happen? But also, hyper specific, like this weird kind of stuff.
Did you bring any of that to Jean? Did you leave it all behind?
I left it all behind. I want a fresh slate.
Okay.
No, I think I brought some level of, I don't know, that's an interesting thing because Jean is so like Yeah, he's very much like,
Cut
this
and
is
dry.
this, and this is that, and this is the correct thing to do, and that's not. So that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I wonder if Jean would be a fan of the
Jean,
TikToks I make.
I would say so. I was gonna say I feel like Jean would be an undercover improv guy too, in the sense where like he probably goes to shows and
Yeah.
he really likes it, but he
Yeah.
like we see in episode 4, I don't think he's necessarily down with the rules.
I think he's also the kind of person who would sit in the audience and be like, I would do something different there.
That's correct.
Or like, if I was up there, they should have done this.
I don't know why we didn't showcase that on the party because I think that would have been hilarious. Well, what's your experience with D&D in terms of coming into the party?
I've played D&D a lot.
Okay.
I've been in the game for the last 7 years,
Yeah.
6 years. So I've had a good amount of experience. So like reading the script, I was like, oh. I think one of my audition scenes was when I teach
Yes.
Viola how the game works. So all the terminology I knew, and I was like, great, I can slide into this super fast. And so yeah, I have played a lot. I enjoy it very, very much.
Very cool. And any other TTRPG experience, like any other systems?
Um,
We're not D&D exclusive here.
We're not. I am. Only because I haven't had.
Yeah.
I would totally am up for it. I
Okay.
just never had a chance to. The game that I started forever ago with my buddies we did 5e, and I was like, okay, great.
This is
I
like,
even played another version of D&D, so I feel like I haven't played 3.5 or 2 or anything. So
I'm the same way, and the reason being, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but for me, it's never about the system. It's about just like what you're doing at the table in terms of role play. So I'm
Sure.
like, well, if I've learned this one,
yeah,
the mechanics to me are like kind of fall to the wayside. So I don't know if you like feel the same way.
Totally,
But
yeah.
it sounds like based on talking to your other cast members that you kind of are into like builds and stuff and like maximizing and stuff like that.
I definitely went through. I played it for a chunk of time now where when I first started playing, and it was just, I don't know how the game worked, and it was just silly bananas. My first character was like crazy. And then the second character I played for a really long time was also a paladin.
So there's some
Yes.
heart in there.
And she was very much like I know exactly how the build I want to go. I want to do the maximum output kind of thing. Min-maxing a little bit and just like but then, that gets to that's sort of what I consider like my sort of second phase of D&D experience is when you get to like, how all the mechanics work.
Yep.
You know how everything's going to go. You're like, the breakdown of your party and what you can bring to it. And you're like, I want to cover every single base of every single situation and know exactly what to do. And then, which is fun, and she was great. And then now with my third character that I'm playing now in my game, I finally, I think, found the mix of being like, I want to have fun, and just if stuff comes up, then great. And like, nothing's set in stone, so you can change stuff and have, and also...
Let's hold for squirrel.
So yeah, all that to say that I'm now in, I think, the third phase of my D&D playing experience where I'm kind of forgetting to min-max, but also bringing in like fun, silly role-playing stuff it's all coming together in a nice way. That's good.
Amazing. How do you personally relate to Jean, if at all?
Yeah.
What are the similarities there?
Well, we're both, I think Jean is a reflection of the part of my life when I felt very insecure, which I mean I do from time to time now, but obviously when I was younger, I feel like our pasts are very close in terms of being like dorky, insecure, smart kids that found solace and community in something that was kind of niche or to the outskirts of what was cool or whatever.
Totally.
And then definitely being like whoever's being nice to you kind of thing, and then sort of like leaning in and being like, you seem cool, blah, blah, blah. And I think where we split is that Jean is very, I like to think that I developed and grew to a point where having perspective of how you're impacting other people and how, I don't think Jean has anyone in his life that is an example of what you shouldn't be like. And so I feel like he's learning it himself on the fly.
I think in Viola's notebook, she writes about York that he exhibits a lack of self-awareness. I almost think that's applicable to Jean as well.
I think Jean it's the kind of thing where I think he's had a relatively easy life in terms of, he's had I'm sure his parents paid for his school. He's educated. He's got a job. Everything's pretty like, he hasn't gone through a lot of things to really develop as a character. He's developed his likes and his dislikes, but as a person, he hasn't really developed a lot of like deep relationship things, which kind of, you have to learn that after messing up or doing something stupid or doing something that you have to learn from.
Totally.
You got to learn from it, or you can choose not to.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Jean especially was really fun playing the sort of, because I think it gets to that in the show of the thing that he really messes up on. And then now is at a crossroads where he's like, what kind of person do I want to be? And
He hasn't had a when the rubber meets the road
exactly.
moment.
So I think this is cool in that it has happened because now he gets to be either you're going to double down or you're going to be the person that everyone thinks you are, or you're going to try to learn and grow and be better.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you bring up the thing about he just hasn't had hardship. And I think when we were first, even before we went to script, we were just writing like character descriptions for like our deck. And I think his exact description was like, guy that was great with numbers in high school, got a good job, nothing much has like happened for him. Because it was just like, it just, all kind of proceeded as such.
Yeah.
And he hadn't had a make or break moment until the incident.
You need them, they're important.
I know, which, I mean, speaking of the incident,
Yeah.
what, as an actor, is it like to play a character with a little, like, dubious intentions?
It's
Because we're talking about Jean, like, dramaturgically,
Right.
if you will, but as an actor.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun playing characters that are not, I mean, I would always love to play like a full villain at some point because I think it's so fun. I like playing things that you can't always draw upon playing, like people who are playing, super chaotic, evil people. It's like, you're not going to have a lot of experience doing that.
You don't relate at all?
No, but, you bring little bits here and there and stuff. It's really cool, and it's fun playing someone that is, like we're saying, at that crossroads of swinging one way. Because if Jean was a character, this would be a moment where he either is like, screw all you people, I'm going to get whatever I want all the time, or it's like, maybe I have to be...
Let's reevaluate.
Reevaluate.
Let's look a little hard.
Putting out to the world.
Yeah. Who would be your dream guest star on the show?
I think based on the fact that I know he plays, or used to, and is a fan of D&D, I think it'd be really cool. My dream, if we're talking anybody,
Money doesn't matter.
Stephen Colbert, I think would be it.
Stephen Colbert,
amazing.
This is your official invitation to come on our show, to be anybody you want to be. I know. Who do you think, what kind of character would Stephen play?
Stephen would play, I think he would play something that would be the opposite of what you would expect. I think he'd want to play something outside of his, not persona or everything, but I think he would play maybe something really violent.
Interesting.
Like a barbarian or a inquisitor rogue, something that's like sinister.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome.
Guys, this has been Grayson Niles. Watch the party. We will be back next week with more Grayson.
If you had to kill off one player, who would it be?
Player or cast person?
I mean, they're connected, aren't they?
You're right. If I had to kill off one player, are we talking party balance or like personality?
We're talking a situation comes up in which you have to, like, only 5 of them are going to live, and one of them has to be voted off because there's not enough resources to sustain them. And I'll remind you that you are talking to me right now.
Yeah. Well, so my first thought was like, you cannot axe Thistle because she like would be very much needed in that situation in terms of like what you could procure. You heal, so it's like it would be hard for me to get rid of a healer.
It's true.
I'm gonna have to say, unfortunately, Yorick has to go because I feel like in terms of usefulness, warlocks tend to be a little self-serving. So it's like that's not. I'm being communist about it. So I'm like, what's for the good of the party?
Yeah.
And
well, Zach, you heard it right here.
You've heard it
You're
first.
not wanted.
Yeah.